Hi, my name is John Montopoli. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I serve on the board of the National Social Anxiety Center, representing the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm also the clinical director for Pacific Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, a group psychotherapy practice located in San Francisco. When told that we have to speak in front of large groups of people, we may experience a range of emotions, including, in some cases, excitement and exhilaration, because we're excited about the message that we're delivering. But in most cases, people will experience fear, anxiety, nervousness, dread, and perhaps even panic. In the first video, I'll be providing you with some background information on public speaking anxiety. In the second video, I'll be offering you some strategies and tips to help manage this problem, as well as perhaps even overcoming it. So this is a common disorder. Public speaking anxiety is, according to the National Institute on Health, the most common phobia, followed by the fear of death or end of life, and spiders as number 3. Also, we know that approximately 73% of all Americans will experience debilitating public speaking anxiety at some point in their life. And by debilitating, I mean that they avoid it, or if they cannot avoid it, they experience significant distress and high degree of symptoms. So what exactly is it? So public speaking anxiety, there's a clinical term for it, and it's called glossophobia. Glossophobia comes from the Greek meaning glossa, meaning throat or tongue, and phobos, meaning fear or dread of. Glossophobia shares many of the same qualities as social anxiety disorder in that our anxiety is largely due to the fear of being negatively evaluated, of being judged, of being rejected. And it can occur in a variety of settings, both formal and informal, and in professional settings as well as in personal or social settings. So for example, an example of a professional formal setting would be giving a speech to a large group of people that you've prepared with PowerPoint presentation and question and answers on a subject matter that you're an expert in. In a social or personal informal setting, it could include giving a story, recounting a story at a dinner party or at an event with friends and family. Well, while it can occur in a variety of settings, the symptoms that we experience can actually be quite similar. So for example, in terms of physical sensations or symptoms, we may include shortness of breath, increased heart rate and blood pressure, dizziness, nausea and vomiting, and dry mouth. It can also affect how we communicate. So verbally, it may affect us in terms of how we deliver our message. Maybe we decrease the tone of our voice, or we take lots of pauses or use filler words such as ah and It can also cause us to have what's called brain freeze, where we either have large pauses in what we're saying or our mind completely goes blank, where we lose the train of thought of what we're talking about. Behaviorally, it can also affect us in terms of what events we may attend. We may avoid certain events where we may be asked to speak. It can also mean that we might not accept invitations because we're knowing that we will have to give a talk or not take a class where there's going to be some public speaking elements to the syllabus. We can also use something called accommodating behaviors, such as taking prescription medication to reduce the physical sensations, drinking alcohol, over-preparing for a speech, maybe memorizing it, preparing a story in advance and practicing it with lots of repetition before we're attending an event. We might also under-prepare for fear of having to present. We can experience public speaking anxiety behaviorally in terms of the things that we do. We may cancel events. We may be reluctant to accept invitations or delay in accepting an invitation. We might use accommodating behaviors, such as using prescription medications or alcohol to relieve our symptoms. We may over-prepare, memorize a speech, or under-prepare for fear of having to give a speech. We might just completely avoid it and pretend like it's not going to happen. We might avoid making eye contact with our audience. And the consequences could be significant. It may mean that we don't advance in our career as much as we dream or hope to. The consequences for experiencing public speaking anxiety can be quite great. It can affect us professionally in terms of not accepting a job or not attending college or completing a degree because you know that you'll need to take classes where public speaking is required. It can also affect us in our relationships. So our friends and families may be disappointed if we're constantly declining invitations to attend dinner parties or social events where there might be groups of people where it's expected that each person would speak. The factors that contribute to the development of public speaking anxiety are quite interesting. If we think back to our ancestors thousands of years ago, in order to maintain safety and survival, they oftentimes needed to stay in groups or packs. That has led us in present day to have that fear of rejection. If we get ostracized or banished or humiliated in front of a group, that fear of potential death still resides in us as modern day humans. The fight or flight response plays a significant role in maintaining public speaking anxiety because it affects the symptoms that we experience. When the fight or flight response gets activated, it is intended to divert the resources within our bodies to help us stay safe and protected. It causes us to have increased heart rate. It also causes us to have a shortness of breath because we want to get as much oxygen within our systems. The fight or flight response also plays a significant role in how we experience public speaking anxiety. The fight or flight response is our body's defense system to help us prepare for danger and threat, to help keep us safe and protected. Some of the things that happen when the fight or flight response is activated include increased heart rate, to divert blood to the areas of our body, our extremities, where we need to be ready to handle protecting ourselves. The fight or flight response plays a significant role in public speaking anxiety. The fight or flight response is our physiological reaction. Our central nervous system is programmed to be on the lookout for threats to our safety. And when it determines that something is unsafe, we want to be prepared, and the fight or flight response is helping us either fight or flee. And it does that by activating a series of events within our body, including increased heart rate or sending blood to our extremities to help us flee. Also, when we are in a threatening situation that requires immediate action, we don't want to stop and contemplate what it means and what we should do. So if we're crossing a street and a car comes barreling towards us, we don't want to stop and think, should I continue to walk? Should I go back? Should I put my hand up to indicate that I'm here and that I want the car to stop? We want to just act. Every moment is needed. So that causes our brains to shut off. And in public speaking, when we're so afraid, it leads to our brains freezing. And with practice, we can learn to not have our central nervous system act in such a way that causes the fight or flight response to be quite so responsive and sensitive to things that aren't life or death situations. Giving a speech is not a life or death situation. Giving a speech may be very anxiety-provoking. However, our central nervous system responds to it in much the same way as if we were being potentially hit by a car or being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Some of the other factors that play into the development of public speaking anxiety include having had traumatic experiences as earlier in life. Maybe we had to give a talk or answer a question in grade school, and we didn't know the answer, and we stumbled, and everyone laughed at us, and we were made to feel humiliated. And so having those kinds of events that leave an impression could carry with us today and set the stage for the fear that we might experience when we're giving public speeches. Also, it could be genetically programmed. Our family members may also have a sensitivity to anxiety, and that would make us more vulnerable today as we're giving a presentation. Lastly, the beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about others, about the world, play a role in activating anxiety in public speaking events. Oftentimes, perfectionistic beliefs such as, I must do a perfect job in order to be acceptable, or if I fail to give a flawless speech, my boss will think that I'm incompetent and will demote me. There's a variety of factors that can play a role in us both developing the public speaking anxiety, but also maintaining it. Because as we have negative experiences, those negative experiences remain in our memories. And the next time that we need to speak publicly, we're going to be quite apprehensive, remembering the previous events. It's quite common and normal for us to experience public speaking anxiety, both because of our ancestral background, but also how our bodies respond to anxiety as a way to protect us in terms of the fight or flight response, but also how we learn growing up from our families, from our past experiences, and also the belief systems that we have. I hope you'll join me in the next video to understand some ways to overcome public speaking anxiety.